Okay, good morning everyone. Thanks for your patience and welcome to the Economic and Cultural Development Committee for the 18th of February 2025. Meeting starts at 11:25. Councillors in attendance. We have Councillor Marnie Doyle. Do we need a welcome back? Sorry, Councillor Doyle, Councillor Andrew Antonelli, Councillor David Martin and Councillor Jim Madden. We're all in attendance. We do have apologies from Mayor Teresa Harding, Deputy Mayor Nicole Jonick and Councillor Jacob Madsen, who are away on council business. I'll move that the leave of absence be granted. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Doyle. All those in favour? Unanimous and carried, thank you. Councillor Doyle will do the acknowledgement of country.
Thank you, Chair. Ipswich City Council respectfully acknowledges the traditional owners as custodians of the land and waters we share. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging as the keepers of the traditions, customs, cultures and stories of proud people.
For the 3rd of December meeting. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Doyle and second by Councillor Antonelli. Any discussion? If no discussion, I'll take that as read and no amendments. So I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? That's unanimous and carried. So item 2 is officers' report. The recommendation for the majority community event sponsorship 2025 for the Ipswich show. The recommendation is that council provide event sponsorship for $30,000 excluding GST to Ipswich Show Society for the 2025 Ipswich show. I do have an amendment to that recommendation, and the recommendation is exactly the same, but for sponsorship for 35, excluding GST for the Show Society. You got that? Thank you. Just for me, I just feel that with a show of 150 years, I think it's of a heritage sort of event. So do I have a seconder? Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Madden.
I was just going to say maybe we should speak to the report first and then, using your suggested amendment as a background for our questions.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Councillor Madden. And we'll discuss... Yeah. So, Councillor Antonelli, did you have a question?
Oh, I think it'd be worthwhile hearing the officers and asking some questions of the officer, particularly in light of your amendment.
Oh, Councillor Martin, the same thing. All right, if we can have the officer up, that would be great. Thank you.
Good morning, Carly Gregory, Manager of Marketing and Promotions.
Oh, thank you, Ms. Gregory. As we can see, my recommendation is to move it up to 35. I just want to see where, I'm not the one, looking at all of the facts and figures. I just want to see where, the organisation is mind's at with the 30.
Yeah, like with every event in event sponsorship, this is panel assessed. So when submissions are made, they're made as outlined against criteria, which is set out in the community funding and support guidelines, which are readily available on the website. And that's all those things like attendances, their social impact, their community engagement, participation, economic, benefit for local business, that kind of thing. So it's not... a negative light on the event at all. It's just assessed on a rating based on how well the applicant makes a submission against the criteria.
Right, okay.
But absolutely up to you. That's
Yeah.
just a recommendation,
Oh, yeah.
so it's transparently assessed. Like
Yeah,
all
well
events.
done. Yeah, and I, 100% support that. What would be for, say, for the city? Off your top of your head, do you know what the economic impact to the city
Of this
is?
event?
Yeah, for this
I think
event.
it's in the report. It hasn't been assessed every year, but I think the last time was in 2021, and it's around just under $900,000, about 888, I think, to be exact, something like that. The round figure of that impact.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Antonelli, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was. I know I've asked this question before of you. How you came to that figure. So just in relation to that, so obviously there's a formula. It's assessed and assessed independently, and now it's coming up to us to decide whether it should be 30 or less or more. So is 30,000 with respect to the formula that you use? Is it the max that we can give? How did you come to 30? I guess is the question.
It's based on them meeting the criteria, I suppose, for this. It's a competitive process. So
Understood.
It's not always an exact comparison, I suppose,
Correct.
in the events. But this is based on the score it gets from those 3 panel assessments. It comes to a score and then an overall score with a recommendation made.
So, okay. So if it was better criteria, it would get more money. Is that what you're saying?
But
Ordinarily?
potentially, but this is at the higher end of a major community event
Yes.
sponsorship.
Yeah, and hence this is our show. This is our city show.
Yep.
It is our major event. And whilst there are other show societies in Ipswich, Marburg and Rosewood and the like, they do feed into ultimately the major agricultural show being our show, our city show. So, so I certainly see the merits. In fact, I was just thinking exactly the same thing about whether we should go to 35 or more with respect to the show being our show. So you sort of took a bit of wind from my sail there, Pi, and I don't mind that at all. But that said, they're the main questions I have.
Yeah, this is significant for major community event funding.
Yeah.
That
And
would what I would say. And if you think about event sponsorship has for more commercial events, I suppose, not community, would have to demonstrate significant economic benefit to get the same level of funding. So we do use a more community-based assessment criteria for these events.
And I also note that due to COVID, due to the 150th year,
Absolutely.
we have had different
Yes,
funding
correct.
arrangements for them to keep them either afloat during COVID or two, with respect to their 150th, a significant event in its own right.
Yeah, so in COVID, just the costs associated with things like hygiene and cleaning,
Yep.
the protocols they had to adhere to, absolutely brought that to council and said they have to just absorb those costs, not in their normal budget, can't budget for that ahead of time, obviously impacts of attendance, so yeah.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Doyle?
Thank you, Chair. Ms Gregory, can I just understand, so the Ipswich show, which I have great affection for, and I think I've attended nearly every year since I was little, if we were to approve the full 35,000 that they requested, this is classed as a significant community event. I'm just wondering what precedent are we potentially setting? What are comparable, and it may not be appropriate to talk publicly about this, but I'm just trying to understand comparably what other significant community events.
Yeah, I can give you some other examples
thank
that would
you.
help. So things like our major community carols. So these events have to have attendances of over 4,000. So that's sort of 4.5 to 6. This has around 30, so it's at the higher end. Story Arts Festival, things like that, that are local celebrations, New Year's Eve celebrations, major community events. So they just don't have the same level of economic benefit required in their assessment criteria.
Okay, thank you.
So just in response to that, through the chair, if I may, do we have a comparable $30,000 event?
Not in major community. I suppose the closest event would be Ipswich Cup and things like that.
And how much does the Ipswich Cup receive?
Off the top of my head, I think it's around 20 to 25. Yeah.
Thank you.
Is Ipswich Cup community, not sponsorship?
It's probably event sponsorship, but in terms of similar value of things we know locally.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I do have a question for the CEO more so than Carly, but thank you, Carly.
All right, Councillor Antonelli.
Are we able to lock in 2 years in whatever we do, whatever we decide?
I'd recommend against it, but what would your rationale be? I'd prefer that we consider the application from the Show Society, but what would your rationale be for that? I guess through the chair.
Yeah, my rationale is mainly that it is a community event. It is a large, and it is our community event. I would like to give the Show Society some, I guess, some certainty going forward for this year and next year.
We might need to get the general manager up who would know our policy better than me off the top. I can check it. Perhaps there's an alternative. If the Show Society is looking for more certainty, we could invite their application sooner than currently. But through the chair, Mr. Poll.
Thank you, CEO, Chair, Councillors. Ben Poll, General Manager, Community, Cultural and Economic Development. There is a precedent for multi-year arrangements. So with our carols across the city, we've got 3-year ongoing arrangements with them. So there is a precedent. I don't think the Show Society sees much risk in council not funding their event. We've been doing so for, well, probably decades now. So I think there's some comfort and confidence in the ongoing support of council. It's just exactly what level that is. So yeah, if there was a decision of council to lock in a certain funding amount over a multi-year period, that wouldn't be extraordinary. But likewise, the Show Society certainly hasn't raised that with us as an issue specifically. But
I guess I see it as an opportunity for both us and the Show Society to have some certainty with budgeting each year's event. And we would obviously see a benefit in knowing exactly how much we're going to give the Show Society each year. Now, that doesn't mean that they couldn't come back to us and seek a top-up on what we're providing them, but at this instance, you've mentioned through the chair, an amendment of an additional 5,000. I'd be just as happy to see that additional 5,000 carry through over a multi-year period, be it 2 or 3 years.
Any other questions of Mr. Poll? No? Thank you. For me, I would just be recommending just the 35 for just the 1 year. But if there's appetite from the councillors to lock in, my rationale is the Show Society has come to us for 35, and this is what, for me, I would look to honour. Going beyond that, I think there would need to be a discussion with the Show Society if they were looking for additional years to lock in. Councillor Doyle?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm supportive of the proposed amendment to the figure, to the full 35,000 that the Show Society have requested, and that's based on, I guess, the feedback and commentary from the council officers. Yeah, I'd be comfortable for the full 35. Not comfortable at this point to lock in a 2-year arrangement, given that Show Society have not asked us for that. And I do know from previous years, for instance, they determine the amount of money often based on the activation and what they're offering to the public. So I know previously there was a particular ride or attraction they were bringing up from Melbourne that was at a greater cost. Admittedly, it was for their anniversary celebrations, but I certainly wouldn't want to lock them in.
Yeah, that's what I would agree. That's my thinking as well. Councillor Madden?
Oh, there's just another issue that I think needs to be considered with regard to the idea of more than 1 year. that next year will be a particularly difficult time for the Show Society because they'll be losing one of their major tenants this year when the greyhounds move out to Loamside. So it may well be that they want more next year after losing a major tenant. So that's an issue why we should really wait for the Show Society to put an application in next year before we consider what happens in that year.
Thank you, Councillor Madden. Councillor Antonelli?
Yeah, I certainly would recommend that the, and I'd be even happy to put a recommendation B in that the council approach the Show Society to talk about a multi-year level of support so that we can budget that each year and they can have some certainty surrounding it as well.
Would it be that we approach them, or is it just that in natural,
That could, I'm just as happy with that, Chair.
just as a natural process, we're open to discussing, not us actively seeking, yeah, do you know what I mean?
No, I'm happy with that. I'll broach the subject with the President myself. Thank you.
Anyone else got any further to add to the recommendation? So did you want to clarify the additional? No. So we'll just go, it might be just take the extra on notice that we will look, instead of putting it in the motion to be carried.
Well, we've got to vote on the amendment first, I do suspect.
I think Councillor Antonelli has just confirmed he's happy to not pursue the multi-year, and he'll have a conversation directly with the Show Society to see if they've got appetite to do that. And obviously that'll happen at councillor level and also at operational level, no doubt. Staff will have that discussion as well, so.
Great. So
Thank you, Councillor Doyle.
what we've got on the table is the recommendation that council provide event sponsorship of $35,000 exclusive of GST to the Ipswich Show Society for the 2025 Ipswich Show. So thank you, Councillor Doyle. Any other discussion around it? Yeah, I think you moved it.
Yeah, but we haven't voted on the
No, we haven't
amendment, have we?
voted on it, just
No,
on
no,
that.
that was
Yeah,
after the discussion. So it's not the amendment, it's the motion.
Yeah.
We didn't amend a motion. We've moved an original motion.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah. So,
So,
yeah, we vote on the amendment.
no, the motion.
The motion, no, because we,
Yeah.
vote on, so all those in favour? No.
What?
What?
I'm very
The
confused.
original
I-
motion
No,
is for $30,000.
Yeah,
When you detail the original motion, that's what it was.
Yeah.
We didn't amend the motion.
That's right. So you've moved an amendment,
Sorry,
Chair. to the mo-
Chair, I thought you had moved
So
an
we
amended
have to,
motion.
well, you have to
Councillor
move the
Madden
original
moved
motion,
it.
then you have to move the amendment,
no, I did the
and then you vote to
amendment.
the amendment.
I just did the amendment straight
No,
up.
she went straight for the 35,000 when she read it out.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I seconded it for 35,000. And
As amended.
we've never spoken about
Okay,
30,000.
so would you like to move your amended motion, Chair?
Not sure whether that's quite the
You can
proper
call it an
procedure,
motion.
but nonetheless.
But it's not-
I
there's
thought
no
I did it, but, so I'll move the amended motion again.
You just got to say all in favour.
Not sure that's the proper procedure.
Yeah. You've moved and seconded.
I think you've
Now
gotta move
we
the
discussed
original
it.
motion.
Now you ask
Then
Yeah,
all in
that's what
favour.
I was going to
And then
before,
ask
and
for
then
that
it was
amendment
like,
to
no.
be considered as
Yeah.
the original motion.
All
I
in
believe
favour.
that's the correct procedure. Correct me if I'm
Where are we
wrong,
going,
but
Sonia?
doesn't the recommendation have to be moved first
And that's what
and
was done.
seconded?
So we could talk
Just
about it.
just excuse me a moment if I may, just to clarify. Then doesn't the amendment have to be offered, moved or other, and then accepted by the seconder?
Through the Chair, I could well be wrong, but I thought that in the case of a different motion, a foreshadowed motion, that you need to move the original motion and then move to the foreshadowed. But I thought if it was an amendment, you could note the recommendation or a motion from the officers and then propose an amendment and then seek.
So it was a
that.
foreshadowed motion?
No, it wasn't. It was an amendment to the motion that the chair put forward.
Which Councillor Madden seconded.
Jim seconded.
Then we discussed it,
Okay.
and now we're voting on it.
Okay.
And so just before we vote, may I just double check with the minute clerk that what was moved and seconded by Councillor Madden was the $35,000 figure rather than the $30,000 figure?
Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, it's up there.
So we're all in favour?
I'm certainly in favour of 35,000, yes.
That's carried unanimously. Right. Thank you very much for indulging in that little exercise. So we go to item 3, which is the quarterly event sponsorship and ticket allocation report from 1st of October to 31st of December. So do we have any questions of the relevant officer? No. I'll move that report. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Doyle. In discussion, I think this is it's just a note and receive. We've had this one come through before, the Spartan sponsorship. So all those in favour of adopting the report? Okay, there's Councillor Madden, myself, Cartnam, yeah, okay. So in favour, Councillor Doyle.
So I think I'll just proceed with the report as it is.
All right, so all those in favour? That's unanimous and carried. So now item 4. This one does have confidential. Yeah. So do you have questions that are confidential in nature, Councillor Antonelli?
I believe they would be.
Okay. Okay. So. Just
We may
indulge
have
me.
questions in relation to item 5 as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm just having a look at as well. So we've got confidential items in item 4 and item 5. So my recommendation would be that we close for both so we can talk.
Chair,
So
at the risk, at the risk of confusing the matter, and if so, I apologise, Chair. Could I just clarify that it's only one attachment to item 4 that is confidential? So if your question is in relation to the confidential attachment, which is attachment 5, then you would need to close?
I would see my questions may be commercial in confidence to
Fine, okay, yes.
the operators, yes.
All right. So I move that in accordance with section 254J3G of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the meeting move into closed session to discuss item 4, titled the Nicholas Street Precinct, December 24 and January 25, Nicholas Street Precinct Project Control Group, as well as, in accordance with the same section, to discuss item 5, titled Nicholas Street Precinct Approval of an Agreement of Lease for Tenancy 2B02 Torma Walk, 8 Nicholas Street. Do I have a seconder in that? Councillor Antonelli? Thank you. So we'll move into a closed session. So all those that... all those in favour? Yeah, unanimous. Thank you. No.
move procedure. I think it's okay just take a vote. Yep.
All right.
Sorry? Somebody would love to let people know.
Okay, so we're back. Those that are online, we just went into closed session to discuss a couple of confidential issues with our item 4 and 5, but now we're back live and we'll be looking at item 4 on the agenda, which is the Nicholas Street Precinct, December 24 and January 25 of Nicholas Street Precinct Project Control Group. So I'll move that. I'll have a seconder, Councillor Antonelli. Discussion? No? No, I just would like to say the numbers within our visitation through the Nicholas Street Precinct, which encompasses our great Christmas offers, our St Nicholas Street Christmas themed, I must say, was absolutely amazing, spectacular. The feedback I got from friends, family was just, I think the team really need to give themselves a big high five on especially delivering our Nicholas Street, St Nicholas Christmas event. I don't know about you, but I had a great time through Christmas coming down to all the events that were activated. Thank you, Councillor Doyle.
Oh, thank you, Chair. I agree. It's been wonderful since the opening of Hoyt's General Public and the Commonwealth Hotel to see the precinct coming to life, as we were assured along the way from various professional advisors to council. And so a couple of examples where, and you know, feedback from residents and small businesses was that, you know, nighttime in Ipswich Central could be a little dark. Sometimes people would feel unsafe, and with any urban precinct, once they come to life, that provides, I guess, a layer of built-in safety in numbers. So I walk out of the building one night, it was 7:30, and you could hear and see the people, the noise from the top balcony at the Commonwealth Hotel and the light coming. And then, so we had residents obviously getting off the train at Bell Street, coming home from work, walking across to the car park. So that gave you a sense of, you know, feeling safe. And then Sunday night, getting a massage, oversharing, at the top of Nicholas Street. And when I came out at 9 o'clock, again, there was a lot more light. There were people, you know, standing around at the front of General Public, obviously leaving the business there. Again, just that sense of safety with people and light being within our precinct. I then walked up Brisbane Street, what would ordinarily be historically a very dark part on the corner of, you know, Alhambra and Brisbane, and it's lit up, well, like a Christmas tree, as I would expect as a female attending that gym once it opens at night. So, yeah, great to see it's all coming to life, and look forward to more businesses opening.
Exactly. Thank you, Councillor Doyle. And I must also add onto that, I think especially through the Christmas period, the volunteers that came in and helped, they must be applauded as well, because we know volunteer numbers go down. But they were I think they were, if I can say, I think they were proud to represent Ipswich through the Christmas period. So I really need to commend the volunteers that helped run over that, activate our space over the Christmas period especially. So thank you very much. Anyone else got anything else to add? No? Okay, so I'll put that one to the vote. All those in favour, adopting that. Thank you, unanimous and carried. So we go to item 5, which we discussed in closed session. So I'll move that report. Do I have a seconder on that? Thank you, Councillor Doyle. A discussion? anyone wants to discuss? No, I think it's a good offering, and hopefully we can see this one through to fruition to be able to activate the precinct as well. So all those in favour of moving forward with this one? That's unanimous and carried. I've seen your little, Councillor Martin, I see your little. Okay, so thank you. Notice of motions, there are none. Matters arising, there are none. General business. There are none. Okay, what's the time, CEO?
12:10, break for lunch, Chair.
Well. Oh, okay.
Forecast in the... Yeah, I just thought we'd raise the issue of the Bradfield Bridge, which has become topical in local media. So, so just with respect to that, the views, I guess, around the table of that, and whether there is a need for us to look more closely at the operating hours, as has been requested. And is there any officers available to discuss the matter, I guess?
Okay,
I understand it does come up, it's a sort of a multi-departmental issue, so...
yeah, we've got Mr. Poll.
yeah, yes, thank you,
Gonna
Mr
answer
Poll.
some questions.
Thank you, Chair, Councillors. Ben Poll, General Manager, Community, Cultural and Economic Development. Happy to
Yes,
take
Antonelli.
on board any questions. As you've noted, it's a multi-function matter, but yeah, happy to chat.
Yeah, look, I appreciate that safety is the issue here, and I think that in some respects the notion of opening it up 24/7 would need very, very careful consideration. I'm often reminded of the old saying of my father, which used to be, nothing good happens after 10 p.m. I mean, obviously people stay out a little bit later than that these days, but even if we were to extend the hours past 10:30 at night to make it 11 o'clock, we'd probably still need to consider safety as an issue. The only issue I seem to have with respect to the hours of opening tend to be more towards the morning. I sometimes think that 6 o'clock might not be early enough for people on their way to work in some instances, but I believe that most of the concern that's been raised relates to nighttime use of the bridge. So I guess I'm after your perspective in your role then. What's your view on the matter?
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, I think we'd always expected at some point that the bridge would be open, Bradford Bridge would be open till probably 12 o'clock, and you'd harmonise that with the car park opening and closing times as well, and then potentially some of the other operators that would be coming online within the Nicholas Street precinct as well, and their operating hours. So I think that was always probably a moment in time at some point in the future that would be presented and discussed as an option for all to consider. In terms of the ongoing management, it's probably we're able to modify our management of it on this side of the bridge pretty easily, because we have ongoing patrols and security and precinct management. Once you start thinking about how does the other side of the bridge get managed, in the sense that anyone that's coming from this side and going to that side are then landing in what is Riverlink, and they won't necessarily be having the same level of security or patrol that we might have on this end. Now, that's not for us to define just yet, but it's a consideration as to...
It'd have to be a negotiation of some sort, would it not?
Yeah, that's right. If you're funneling people back and forth, you have to consider both sides of the bridge as opposed to just one. It's probably easier for us to manage our side than it is for potentially Riverlink to manage their side, so to speak. Yeah. In terms of the nighttime economy, as we've already discussed, it's about when those kind of attractions and operations start to come online this side. At the moment, we don't see a lot of foot traffic on the Bradfield Bridge beyond 9:30 p.m. Now, that might be a symptom of its current opening times, or you might argue there are varying factors for that. But just the data, as it stands today, is very little use past the hours of 9:30. the point you raised about maybe earlier opening hours, we could look at that as well.
I guess my last question is, with respect to negotiating the hours of operation for that bridge, how is the difficult part the negotiations with the Riverlink site because of the matters you raised?
There haven't been difficult negotiations to date. It's simply been a discussion, but because they're quite manageable at this point in time, because they're in and around their operating hours, it's not such an issue. So no, I wouldn't say there's been any serious challenges in negotiating the open times with
Well, that's promising,
Riverlink.
yes.
Yeah, not to date. They've been quite open to working with us. They've had their views, they've had their needs as well that they've brought to the table. The Nicholas Street precinct, obviously they have their ideas. Our own safe city and asset protection area have their ideas on preferred opening times. There's been occasions where councillors have raised changes to opening times with us. City events, when they're putting on their activations, we modify opening times around that as well. So to my knowledge, there hasn't been any difficulties or challenges in managing that to date.
I don't think I speak on my own here when saying that safety needs to be the priority in relation to the matter.
Safety.
I think everybody around the table and on this council would agree. It just comes down to, as you say, Mr. Pole, with respect to managing what's the best times to operate under. Is that something that we should start looking at, whether or not we need to tinker around with those, around the edges with those times, whether it be extending it to 11 or 12 o'clock or the morning hours, etc.?
Yeah, we're happy to work with you on providing data and evidence and information and insight as to what we're seeing. If that, delivers a change to the operating or the opening times, then so be it. But yeah, we're happy to engage in that conversation, provide everything that we can contribute to that discussion.
So you recommend a way forward for this, or CEO?
We just bring it to a briefing session so we can all discuss.
We can just provide advice. These are operational matters. Councillors are very happy to consider it operationally, work it through and to bring it forward to you for your feedback.
To the councillors?
Yeah,
Yep.
to the councillors, to the committee,
Thank
whatever you see fit. All interested councillors, the whole council, if it's a matter of interest to the whole council, not a problem, we're in your hands.
Thank you.
Councillor Doyle, you had a question, you've been
I
waiting.
just want to confirm Mr Pole's advice as Chair of Ipswich Central for 4 years. There were numerous discussions and it will be well documented on the records here. There was, it was multifaceted about the opening and closing times for the toilets as well as Bradfield Bridge. And I absolutely aware of discussions with Riverlink around what their needs and desires are as well. So I don't see there needs to be any change to what's already undertaken, and that is our Safe City team obviously provide data and work closely with Nicholas Street Precinct. It's been going on for 4 years. And it's been a big consideration. And I recall making the comments during live stream a couple of years ago. I look forward to having a nighttime economy and an Ipswich CBD that is activated to warrant 24/7 Bradfield Bridge. I can't wait for that, but we're not there yet.
Thank you, Councillor Doyle, thank you. And no one's got any other questions? Thank you, Mr Pole. So we'll just get some sort of, how do we wrap that one up then?
Yeah, because it's been raised in general business. There's no motions, no recommendations. It's if the committee's satisfied, I'll take it forward operationally, and
great.
as
Thanks,
I've already
Sonia.
said, come back to the committee. Yep.
All right, so we'll close the meeting at 12:20. Will we stop? Yeah, half an hour. Councillor Madden, what would you like? It's your next chair.
We'll get through it pretty quick.
Okay.
So we continue on. What do you think? Oh, well, depends whether anyone
How
wants to
long for
ask
the lunch
questions.
How long for lunch?
Break for lunch.
Well,
Sure.
one. At 1? I just want to refer to the chair. It's been a long day.
I'm fine with 1.
1? Okay.
Yeah,
We'll come
sorry.
back. We'll come back at
Didn't
1. Thank
realise.
you, everyone. Thank you.